Anyway, junior doctors have threatened to walk out indefinitely if the government refuses to cave into their demands for an inflation-busting pay rise.
The British Medical Association has told me, he says, they must boost pay by at least 35% if they want to bring the industrial action to an end.
This is the third day of strike action this week, and we're now joined by junior doctor, Dr. Bhasha Mukherjee. I hope I've pronounced your surname right there. So, today's, first time you've striked. Why did you decide to go on strike today and not before?
I think, for me personally, it was definitely a matter of ethics and also financial reasons. It's interesting that, the reason we're striking is to get a pay rise. And actually, a lot of us who have not been able to strike has been because we can't afford a day loss of payment, essentially. So that's been kind of one of the main reasons why I haven't been able to strike previously. But also, I think, it is that, moral conscience thing as well, that you wonder, is this the right thing to do? And I know this is something that a lot of my colleagues have also felt, but ultimately it's a case of, feeling valued and being at work and feeling that you're being, compensated for the hard work that you're putting in, essentially.
What would you say to people who say that, look, 35%, asking taxpayers to pay that, people who are struggling themselves, to pay junior doctors 35% extra, that's completely unrealistic. What would you say to that?
We wouldn't have come to this number if it hadn't been years and years and years, about 8-9 years of not being compensated for, the cost rises that we face. 10 years ago, junior doctors 10 years ago were paying much less in university fees. Their mortgages were less as well. The affordability was much better. And in comparison, our wages have just not kept up. And we've come to this point because of basically it's been a lag. And it's not a case of suddenly we want a 35% raise. It's just a lag that we're facing.
Now, Bhasha, I'm somebody who'd want to say, how do we get to a solution? Where is the compromise here? And I'm thinking, is it a multi-year settlement? And what are you putting forward? Because, like you say, people say, look, 35% is not going to happen, and it's not going to happen now. But I was looking at things like student fees. If these were wiped out, got rid of student fees, we're looking at it now, so many students don't pay the fees back, and they said, so we'll wipe that out, and maybe there's a commitment by doctors to, if we've trained you, paid all this money for your training, you remain with us for, say, 10 years. If there was a couple of changes, so there could be a 5% increase, we could look at your student fees, but you commit to the UK for the training you've had. Is this a step forward that you, other junior doctors and the BMA would accept?
I can't speak for all junior doctors. I can't speak for the BMA either. And I know the people who have been negotiating have been doing this, taking very much a lot of things into consideration. They're much more experienced than I am in dealing with the numbers. I mean, if you tell me... But
if it's you, because you're here and you've said that, this is not for anybody else, but me personally, if I gave this solution to you...
If you were asking me personally, I would say any deal is better than no deal. And currently, so far, we've not had much advancement in a deal being settled. So, I mean, that's my personal viewpoint. I can't speak for other doctors.
Bhasha, lots of people say, look, when workers go on strike, the purpose of going on strike is to damage their employer until they sort of come to the senses and reward workers properly. What people say about doctors and people in the NHS is that when you go on strike, you're not damaging your employer. The only people that you're hurting are vulnerable patients who are relying on you for their care. Is it not difficult to justify for people in the NHS to go on strike? Because you're punishing the people who you're not really seeking to punish.
Yes, but we're not a charity either. Ultimately, we might as well work for free if it's about that, But would you want to just make us work for free if it came to that? I mean, that's it's not about the number necessarily, but it's about the principle. And ultimately, if you value the doctors in this country and you don't want them to go abroad and go to Australia or down anywhere in New Zealand, which a lot of my colleagues are actually planning to next year.
Yeah, but that's not quite the same system as the NHS, is it? It's part private, so of course you're going to get paid more. So maybe you'd prefer a part private system than a full NHS system to pay you more.
I can't comment on that. I mean, I can definitely say the NHS is absolutely brilliant in the way that we are continuing to, despite all the adversaries, to actually serve our population. But at the same time, there's definitely been a lot of struggle to maintain the quality of care.
And people who say, look, this is the BMA, they're just a left-wing organisation who are really just trying to damage the government for political reasons, what would you say to that?
Again, I don't speak for the BMA, and I do not speak. I do not understand enough about politics to talk about that. But I know that what the BMA are trying to do is back up the doctors, and I know that it's taken so many doctors to be a part of this movement. It must mean something.